What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? How are you people doing? Welcome to today's session. I hope that all my ninth grade superstars are doing good. Today's session is going to be about gravitation. We're going to focus on this particular topic, which is nothing but gravitation. We'll be understanding everything that is related to gravitation in the days ahead. So today we'll be talking about the universal law of gravitation. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Anup. I'm a master teacher of science here with Antu. And once again, a very warm welcome to all of you guys out there. So, people, let's get started with today's session, that is understanding about universal law of gravitation. But before we get into that, as always, the ritual. Yes, never forget the ritual. And the code for today is this, guys. The best way to gain self-confidence is to do what you're afraid to do. If you're afraid of the dark, go ahead, turn off all the lights, and walk down the streets, not the streets exactly, down your route. So people, whatever is that you're afraid of, if you want, if you want to build your confidence up, if you want to get over that fear, you have to face that fear. That is the only way to get rid of it. If you're afraid of exams, then give as many exams as you possibly can. So give yourself that time and space. So what you have to do is, basically, this is what I tell all my students. Imagine that you're in the exam hall, give yourself exactly 3 hours, take a sample paper and solve that question just like how you were in an exam hall. So this way you get over that fear, you get used to that situation. It's like riding a bicycle. You might be scared to ride it for the first time, the second time, you might fall once, twice, thrice, even 5 times, but after that you pick up and you learn. That's the way life also works. You have to put yourself out there so that you can build your self-confidence. All right. Anyways, with that said, guys, that's a very good advice. Please take it. With that said, let us get into today's session. So, what are we going to talk about in the days ahead? We'll be understanding about Kepler's law of planetary motion, free fall and acceleration due to gravity, and weight and mass of an object as well. But today, we'll be understanding about universal law of gravitation. So, let's get right into it. What exactly is gravitation? So, people, imagine this. The moon and the stars are out there in the sky. Why don't they fall down onto the earth? Okay. Why does a stone or a ball that is thrown from a height fall down to the ground? Why is this moon not falling there? Okay. Why is that some things are falling down and some things don't? What is the reason behind it? What is the science behind it? Trust me, people. All of these things can be explained by this one concept called as gravitation. So let's get right into it. Here's the thing, guys. Imagine I have a ball or a stone that is strung to a string, like tied up to a string, and you start rotating it. What happens? The stone or the ball starts rotating in a circular direction. Okay, in the same way, if you talk about the earth and the moon, they're also moving around the earth in a circular direction, a circular motion, or not. It's an elliptical path, but then you can say that it's a circular motion. All right. So there is a force that is acting on the string which keeps the ball or that stone in that circular motion. And this force is what is called as your centripetal force. And this force is acting on the string, which is acting towards the center, not away from the center, but it's acting towards the center, which is why it's called as a centripetal force, which means that it's a center seeking force. Now, in the same way, like I told you, the earth and the moon, the earth is revolving around the sun and the moon is revolving around the earth. They're also going in a circular path. So there is centripetal force over there as well. There is centripetal force acting over there as well, which is why they continue to move in that circular path. Now, if there is no centripetal force, like in the case of the string and the ball example that I gave you, if you let the string go, you're rotating it, and if you suddenly let the string go, the ball would not continue to rotate in a circular path. Instead, it will go straight in a tangent. It will go straight in that particular direction, because the velocity of that ball is acting in that particular direction. When a body is moving in circular direction, the velocity is always a tangent. So what happens, as soon as you leave the string, the ball starts moving straight in a tangent to the circle. So what happens? Apparently there's no centripetal force. So in the same way, the earth and the moon also experiences a centripetal force. If there was no centripetal force, then the moon would have just gone straight, and the earth also would have gone straight, it would have left the orbit and would have gone straight, but that does not happen. But at the same time, there is no string that is attracting or that is there between the earth and the moon. We're not the moon and the earth is not connected by a string. So there is an invisible force that makes the moon rotate in that circular direction, or which causes that centripetal force. And that force, my friends, is nothing but the gravitational force. That's what. That is what is gravitational force. The force of attraction between two objects is what is called as that gravitational force. Now, in the string example, the force was what? The tensional force. The tension on the string is what causes the body to move in that circular direction. That is what caused that centripetal force. Here, it is the gravitational force, not the tensional force, which creates that centripetal force. That's all. Alright, now, Newton, I'm pretty sure that everyone has heard this beautiful name called as Isaac Newton. Now, let me know in the comment section below how many of you guys have actually, in your heart or in your mind, have at least scolded him once for, making us study so much and giving such long derivations and all. Let me know in the comment section below. I for sure have. When I was in my, I think I was in my 8th or 7th grade, I actually did do this. So, how many of you guys fall under that category? Let me know in the comments section below. I would love to read your comments. Just let me know if you guys also had ever thought of Newton as a villain, not exactly as a hero or the god of physics. All right, so let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, so here's the thing, guys. So you guys know the story. He was sitting under an apple tree, not under a coconut tree, standing under an apple tree, or sitting under an apple tree, and the apple falls down. It falls down on his head. So it got him thinking that why did the apple fall down, and that's how the whole, the coining of the word gravitation came into existence. Now, he concluded that it is not just that the earth is attracting the apple. In fact, all the objects out there in the universe are attracting each other. Now, that is the conclusion that he came to, and this basically changed the way that we looked at things. So, like I told you, if all the objects are attracting each other, if Earth is attracted by the apple, then the apple should also attract the Earth. So why doesn't the Earth move towards the apple? Instead, why does the apple move towards the Earth? What is the reason for that? Now, here comes a simple, tiny little, not derivation per se, but explanation of why this happens. Now, we all know that force is what? Force is mass times acceleration. Let's say that the force between two bodies is the same. Alright, the force is constant. So I can say that mass is indirectly proportional to 1 by acceleration, or acceleration is indirectly proportional to mass, right? Because the force is kept constant, so I can say that it's indirectly proportional. So this means that if the mass increases, then the acceleration should decrease. Now it's very clear, the mass of an apple compared to the mass of the earth is massive. It's humongous compared to just a tiny little apple, which one might cost, what, it might be like 200 grams. I don't even know. I think it's 200 grams. But yeah, an apple might weigh like 200 grams. But Earth weighs a ton lot more. And because of this, the acceleration on the apple is going to be greater than that of the Earth. Why? Because acceleration is indirectly proportional to mass. So mass of the apple is less. So the acceleration on the apple is going to be more. Mass on the earth is more. So the acceleration placed on the earth is less. Simple. This is why the apple moves towards the earth. Not that the earth moves towards the apple. But yes, guys, there is force of attraction between the both. Apple is attracting the earth. Earth is also attracting the apple. Just that the mass of the earth is far more greater. So it just, overpowers the apple just by a lot. Alright, now, the force of attraction, this is how we define gravitation. The force of attraction between two objects is what is called as gravitational force. Now to talk about the universal law of gravitation. Now this law is followed by everything in the universe. Now anything between two stars, between two planets, between whatever you take, between two black holes, pretty much everything, there is this universal law of gravitation. So what exactly is this universal law of gravitation? According to universal law of gravitation, every object in the universe attracts each other, which is what is called as the gravitational force. And this force is proportional to the product of their mass, the multiplication of their mass, and indirectly proportional or inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them, and this force is acting along the centers of the two objects, and this is what is called as the universal gravitational law. Now I'm pretty sure that majority of you guys who are reading this for the first time will be like, sir, what on earth are you talking about? Let me just explain this, guys. See, people, let's take two objects. All right, there's one big object and there's another small object. Now the big object, I'm going to give that, the mass of the object is capital M, and for the small m, it's small m, and the distance between the two centers from the center of this object to the center of this object is d. All right, that's A and that's B. Awesome. Now, according to universal law of gravitation, this force, the force that is acting between these two objects, is proportional to the product of the two masses. So if you multiply both the masses, it's directly proportional. So greater the mass, more is the gravitational force. Like, that's why every planet revolves around the sun. Why? Because the sun's mass is way more greater compared to all the other planets. So because of that, the force of gravitation between the sun and other planets are more. That's why everything is revolving around the sun. Alright, now it also says that this force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Now the distance between them is d. So inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. If we square whatever the value is, that would be equal to the force. That means, together, all of that together. Alright. Now, what does this mean? If you increase the distance between two objects, the force of gravitation would decrease because it's indirectly proportional. If this decreases, this would increase. Sorry, if if the distance between the two particles increase, then the force also decreases. Sorry, I just wrote it the other way around. If you increase the distance between them, if you increase the distance between them, then the force decreases. If you decrease the distance between them, then the force would increase. It's inversely proportional. So in conclusion, guys, you can say that this force is directly proportional to the product of the two masses divided by the square of the distance between them. That's all. This is what is the universal law of gravitation. Now, there is this proportionality sign, and I don't want it. I don't like it. So how do I remove it? This proportionality constant was removed later in the year, in 1731, between the year 1731 to 1810, by the scientist named as Henry Cavendish. Now, Henry Cavendish worked with a sensitive balance. What is a sensitive balance? Is nothing but, if you've ever been to this gold shop and all, they have this this very high tech kind of. It's not exactly high tech, but it's very sensitive. Even the smallest gram of gold can be detected over there, and it's generally kept in a closed container, in a glass case or something like that. So that is what is called sensitive container or sensitive balance. So he used this to find out something called as G. What is this G? G is nothing but the constant that is introduced to remove this proportionality sign, which is called as the universal gravitational constant, and the value of this is equal to 6.673 into 10 to the power of minus 11 Newton meter square kg square. So this is Newton meter square per kg square is basically the unit of that, and this here is nothing but the universal gravitational constant, which is introduced so as to get rid of that proportionality sign. So what is the formula that you get? The force of attraction, or the gravitational force between two objects, is equal to G, which is nothing but the gravitational constant, mm, which is the product of the two masses, divided by the square of the distance between them, and the distance between them is given as d. So the square of the distance between them gives you what is the force of attraction, or the gravitational force between two objects. That's all, people. That there concludes the topic for today. We'll be solving some questions now, but everyone quickly take a screenshot of this one. So if you want to find out what is the value of G, you can use this. So G is what? If F is equal to GMM divided by R square, or D square, let's keep it as D square just to avoid confusion. What is the value of G? G is equal to what? G is equal to FD square. That is, you take this to the other side, divided by the product of the two masses. That's all. So that's how you find out the value of G if you want to calculate it. So in some questions they would have asked you to calculate what is the universal gravitational constant. So use the formula to find out the same. Okay, so with that said, now So yes, guys, this is going to be the first question now. Now, I want every one of you guys to try out this question and let me know in the comment section below how did you or how you were able to solve it or not. I mean, were you able to solve it or not? And if you did give the right answer, let me know in the comment section as well. Let me know whatever the answer is. Do not worry whether it's right or wrong. Just let me know. Alright. Here's the question: Is if the gravitational force between a man weighing 68 kg and a woman weighing 52 kg is 1.48 into 10 to the power of minus 8 Newton, at what distance are they standing? So you're supposed to find out what is the distance. They've given you the gravitational force. They've given you the mass of the two objects as well, of the two persons as well. Find out what is the distance between the two objects. Your options are 16 meters, 4 meter, 8 meter, or 10 meter. How do you solve this question? Very simple, people. Very simple. Alright, so let me just show it for you guys. First thing, they've given you the force, the gravitational force between the two objects, that is 1.48 into 10 to the power of minus 8 Newton. They've also given the mass of the first person, I'll take as M1, that is 52 kg, and M2 is given as 68 kg. Alright, and you're supposed to find out what is the value of D, that is the question. So force is equal to what? Gm1 M2 divided by D square, that is a formula. Now you already know what is the value of G. I'll take the value of, the value of G is what, 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square, that is the formula. So I'll take this as 6.7 just to make my life a little easier. Because 6.67, it's very close to 7, so I can take it as 6.7 into 10 to the power of minus 11. Alright, so what substitute the values over here. Force is given as 1.48 into 10 to the power of minus 8. G is given as 6.7 into 10 to the power of minus 11. M1 is 52, M2 is 68, D square is what you're supposed to find out. So D square is equal to what? 6.7 into 10 to the power of minus 11 into 52 into 68 whole divided by 1.48 into 10 to the power of minus 8. So simplify this. I know the values are pretty big, but then yeah, if you simplify it, you will get something like, so you can, I'll just try to make it more simple for you guys. So it's minus 11 and minus 8. So if you take that minus 8 to the numerator, what will happen? It'll become plus 8. So minus 11 plus 8, it'll become 10 to the power minus 3 then. So you have 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 3, or we'll just take it as 6.7. 1 second. We'll just take it as 6.7 into 10 to the power of minus 3. How did I get minus 3 again? It's because in the numerator you have minus 11, in the denominator you have minus 8. So when that goes to the numerator, it will become plus 8. So plus 8 minus 11, you'll get us minus 3, right? So 6.7 into 10 to the power of minus 3 into 52 into 68 whole divided by 1.48. So if you simplify this, you will get something like 16007 point something, I think something around like 5.8 or something like that you'll get. So I'll just keep it like that, 5, I'll just keep it as 5. So this is what you're gonna get. So this is D square. D square is equal to this. Now into 10 to the power minus 3. Now into 10 to the power minus 3, what will happen? 3 means it will become 16. So 16.00 is what you're gonna get. So D square is equal to 16 square. So D square is equal to 16. So what is D? D is equal to root of 16, which you'll get it as 4 meters. That's all. That is the answer, guys. The answer to this question would be 4 meters. That's all. So it's 16,007. You'll get some point value also. So just it's into the 10 to the power minus 3. So what will happen is that 3 points to the front, so it'll become 16.007. So you can take it as 16. 1 decimal point. So you can take it as 16. Root of 16 is nothing but 4. That's all, guys. That is the answer for this question. Congratulations to all those guys who gave the right answer. Keep the good work. Keep practicing questions, guys. It's very important. Read your textbook. Make sure that you practice a lot of questions as well. With that said, moving on to the second question. Two particles A and B of mass m1 and m2 respectively are placed at some distance. If the mass of each of the two particles is doubled, keeping the distance between them unchanged, the value of gravitational force between them would be what? 4 times, 2 times, 1.5 time, or 1/4 times. So there are two particles, mass m1 and m2, placed at some distance. If the mass of those two particles are doubled and the distance is kept same, what happens to the gravitational force between them? All right. So m1 would become 2m1, twice the mass. m2 would become 2m2. Distance remains the same. You're supposed to find out what is the value of f. F is equal to what? Again, G m or m1 m2 divided by d square. That's the formula. So if you double it, what will happen? It will become G into 2m1 2m2 divided by d square. Now, you know that basically if you just take the 2 outside, so what do you get? 2 is f is equal to 4g m1 m2 divided by d square, right? That's what you get. Now, what is g mm by d square? That is nothing but f. That is nothing but the force of gravitation. So f will become 4 times. It will become 4 times. That is the answer to this question. Why did I write it as f? Because what is g mm by r square? That is nothing but the force, that is gravitational force. So it will become, you can substitute that as f, so you'll get as 4f. That means the force will become 4 times more than the original value if the mass of both the bodies were to be doubled. The force of gravitation would increase. Like I told you, if the mass increases, the force of gravitation between the two objects also increase. That's all. Alright, this is the answer to this question. With that said, this is your homework for today as well. What is the SI unit of the universal gravitational constant? Let me know what is the answer in the comment section below. I'll be hoping to see all of you guys putting down the answers as well. Thank you for joining. See you guys in the next one. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Love you all. Be safe. Leave a like. Subscribe to the channel. And if you have any doubts, you can also reach out to me at anup.manoharan@vedanta.com as well. Thank you, people. Catch you guys in the next one. Until next time, this is Anup signing off for the day. Bye, my people. See you all. Take care.